Have you ever witnessed a career collapse in real time? Not over years, not over months, but in a single moment. One sentence, a split second of lost control. That's exactly what happened last night. Millions of viewers tuned in for what should have been a routine political debate. A powerful TV host, a rising young conservative, a heated back and forth. Business as usual, right? But within minutes, something felt different. Marcus O'Reilly, a veteran journalist, a man who spent decades shaping public opinion, found himself losing control. His words sharpened, his tone grew tense, and then it happened. A single sentence, a moment of unchecked arrogance. The studio went silent, the audience froze, and across from him sat Emily Carter, calm, collected, completely unshaken. She didn't shout. She didn't flinch. Instead, she delivered a response so devastating it sent shockwaves across the nation. By the next morning, the headlines were everywhere. Marcus O'Reilly fired after explosive on-air moment. His career, over. But how did it happen? What did he say that was so unforgivable? And did he really deserve to lose everything? Stay with me, because this is a story you do not want to miss. To understand the collapse of Marcus O'Reilly, we need to go back. Because this wasn't just a one-time slip-up. This was years in the making. For 2 decades, Marcus O'Reilly was untouchable, a dominant force in broadcast journalism. His voice shaped narratives, his interviews made and broke politicians. He was the gatekeeper of public discourse. With his signature smirk and piercing questions, he prided himself on grilling conservative guests, often shutting them down before they even had a chance to defend themselves. He was known for interruptions, loaded questions, and moments that left his guests flustered, scrambling for words, and his audience loved it. But last night, the roles reversed. Enter Emily Carter. A sharp-witted, unshakable young conservative. She wasn't there to be humiliated. She wasn't there to cower. She had something Marcus had never encountered before, an ironclad resolve and the ability to turn his tactics against him. Unlike Marcus, she hadn't built her career from the comfort of a newsroom. She had clawed her way into the political arena, facing a media that treated people like her as enemies, rather than voices to be heard. She had faced smears, misquotes, and outright attacks, and she had never backed down. So when she walked into that studio, she knew exactly what she was up against. Marcus? He thought this would be just another takedown, another easy debate where he would control the narrative and watch his opponent crumble. But what he didn't know, what no one knew, was that this time, he was the one walking into a trap. Because in just a few minutes, the unshakable Marcus O'Reilly was about to make a mistake so devastating it would cost him everything. And it all started with one question. Coming up next. The moment that changed everything. The stage was set. Marcus O'Reilly leaned forward, resting his elbows on the glossy news desk. His trademark smirk was in place, his confidence unshaken. For now. Across from him, Emily Carter sat composed, poised, her expression unreadable. This wasn't just an interview. This was a battle. The topic of the night? Does the media truly represent all voices fairly? A simple question on the surface, but everyone watching knew what this really was. An ambush. Marcus had done this 100 times before. He would bait his guest, lead them into a verbal trap, then hammer them with rapid-fire accusations. It always worked. Always. But tonight? Emily Carter was about to rewrite the rules. Music swells, tension growing. Marcus started as expected, his tone polite but his words razor-sharp. Marcus O'Reilly? Conservatives are always complaining about media bias. But don't you think it's just an excuse, a way to dodge accountability? A classic move. Frame the question in a way that forces the opponent to be defensive from the start. Emily didn't bite. Accountability is one thing. Marcus, controlling the narrative to silence opposition? That's something else entirely. A flicker of surprise crossed Marcus's face. The usual stumble, the hesitation, the scrambling for words from his guests? It didn't happen. So, he went harder. Marcus O'Reilly. Leaning in, voice sharper, yet conservative media thrives. You have entire networks dedicated to your views. Maybe the real issue isn't bias, but the fact that your side simply can't handle opposing opinions. A direct attack, one designed to rattle, to provoke. But Emily? She just smiled. Emily Carter? measured, but firm. Marcus, let's be real. You don't invite conservatives onto your show to have a conversation. You bring them here to corner them, to discredit them. You don't want a debate, you want a takedown. Isn't that the real issue? Moment of impact. The audience shifted. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Marcus O'Reilly had been called out on his own stage, and for the first time, he didn't have a quick comeback. But wait, are you enjoying this showdown? If you're still here, that means you're hooked. Make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe so you don't miss more of these hard-hitting debates. Let's keep this conversation going. Music slows, but tension lingers. Marcus blinked. A second. A hesitation. He knew he had to regain control, fast. Marcus' demeanor flickered. Well, Emily, if you feel that way, maybe you shouldn't have agreed to come on this show. Emily Carter, without missing a beat. Oh, I'm here because I believe in actual discussion, not staged hit jobs. Boom. Marcus's smirk faltered. His usual tactics, the interruptions, the deflections, the dismissive tone, weren't working, so he made a critical mistake. A mistake that would end his career. Music tightens, heartbeat like bass as tension peaks. Marcus O'Reilly, frustrated, voice rising, about the media. Maybe if you spent less time complaining and more time contributing to society, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Silence. The kind of silence that isn't empty, but deafening. The control room froze. The audience stopped shifting. No one laughed. No one clapped. Marcus O'Reilly had just made the biggest mistake of his career. Because in that moment, he wasn't just attacking Emily Carter. He was insulting millions of Americans. Music halts, dead silence, and Emily? She knew it. She could have shouted, she could have slammed the table, pointed a finger, let the anger take over, but instead, she did something far worse. She leaned forward, locked eyes with Marcus O'Reilly, and spoke 6 words that would destroy him. Emily Carter. Would you like to repeat that? Moment of reckoning. The oxygen in the room vanished. Marcus blinked, shifted in his seat. His throat bobbed as he swallowed. For the first time, the man who had built a career out of controlling conversation had lost control. And it was all on live television. But this was just the beginning. Because what happened next, the backlash, the fallout, the moment Marcus O'Reilly realized he had just destroyed himself, was even bigger. Stay with me, because this story is far from over. Coming up next, the aftermath that no one saw coming. Before we continue, if you're hooked, smash that like button and tell me in the comments, did Marcus O'Reilly just end his own career, or was this cancel culture gone too far? Let's talk about it. Tense background music, slow, pulsing beats as the weight of the fallout begins to set in. When the cameras cut, the damage was already done. Marcus O'Reilly sat frozen in his chair. The once dominant journalist, the man who had built a career out of grilling his guests, was now the one being grilled by silence. Emily Carter hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't needed to. With just 6 words, "Would you like to repeat that?" she had turned the entire room against him. Music swells slightly, tension growing. The control room was in chaos. Producers were scrambling, whispering frantically into their headsets. The director's voice crackled through the earpieces. Director, panicked, hushed. Cut to commercial. Now. The screen faded to black. But it was too late. The moment had already been captured. Millions of people had seen it live, and within seconds it was everywhere. Trending on Twitter, Marcus O'Reilly, meltdown.viral. On YouTube, the moment Marcus O'Reilly lost it. Facebook, TikTok, Reddit, clipped, replayed, dissected. Marcus's words, maybe if conservatives spent less time complaining and more time contributing, were being ripped apart by both sides. Conservatives were outraged. Liberals were silent. And that was the most dangerous part. Because silence meant no one was coming to save him. Heartbeat like bass, the weight of realization settling in. Back at the network's headquarters, an emergency meeting was called before the broadcast even ended. A dozen executives sat around a massive glass table, phones buzzing, screens flooded with headlines. Executive, tense, pacing, "This is bad, really bad." Executive. 2. We've lost 3 major advertisers in the last 10 minutes. A sharp inhale rippled through the room. Executive. 3, shaking head, rippled through the room. There was no debate. Marcus had to go. Suspenseful? A sense of inevitability? Meanwhile, Marcus still had no idea. He sat in his dressing room, staring at his reflection in the mirror. His phone was blowing up. Texts, emails, missed calls from numbers he didn't recognize. His agent, his lawyer, old colleagues. One text stood out. Network executive, cold, direct. We need to talk, now. Marcus's hands clenched. He already knew what was coming. Marcus stared at the paper. They weren't even giving him a chance to fight. He had built this network. He had given them ratings, control, power. Now, they were throwing him away like yesterday's news. Marcus orally. You're caving to mob outrage over a single sentence? Network CEO, leaning forward, ice in his voice. No, Marcus, we're cutting you loose because you stopped being useful to us. Impact moment. That was the final blow. Marcus O'Reilly wasn't being fired over a mistake. He was being fired because he had become a liability. In the cutthroat world of media, it was never about loyalty. It was about who held the power. And at that moment, Marcus had none. Newness! Within minutes of the announcement, the news spread like wildfire. Breaking. Marcus O'Reilly fired after controversial on-air remarks. Former media giant taken down in one night. Reporters swarmed his house. Cameras flashed. His phone kept ringing. But no one was calling to help. Text from his lawyer. We need to talk. Damage control. Text from a former colleague. I can't be associated with this. Sorry. Everyone was abandoning him. He wasn't a media powerhouse anymore. He was radioactive, soft ominous bass hums marking the reality setting in. Meanwhile, Emily Carter? She said nothing. No victory laps, no interviews, no press conferences. Just a single tweet. Emily Carter. The truth always wins. Dramatic pulse. Final impact. And with that, the power shift was complete. Marcus O'Reilly, once a titan of media, was now just another casualty of his own arrogance. But wait, was this justice, or cancel culture gone too far? Did Marcus deserve to lose everything, or was this just another example of the media eating its own? Let's talk about it. Drop a comment below, smash that like button, and if you want more hard-hitting stories like this, subscribe now. Coming up next, what happened to Marcus after he disappeared from TV? You won't believe where he ended up. If Marcus O'Reilly thought that his downfall would mark the end of the story, he was dead wrong. Because while he sat in silence, watching his career go up in flames, Emily Carter was about to break hers wide open. No press conferences, no media tours, just one single move. A move that would change everything. And when it hit, the entire country took notice. Like a storm about to break. The moment that changed everything. For 2 days, Emily Carter remained silent. She didn't celebrate. She didn't gloat. She simply watched. Text from a friend. Girl, you ended him. Wins the victory lap. Text from a news producer. Exclusive interview, primetime slot. Name your price. Text from a senator. You proved a point. Now use this momentum. But Emily wasn't interested in taking a bow. Because in her mind, this wasn't about Marcus O'Reilly. It was about something much bigger. Her silence? It wasn't hesitation, it was calculation. And when she finally moved, it was like an earthquake. Beat drop, moment of impact. Scene 2, the tweet that shook the nation, at exactly 12:01 p.m. 2 days after Marcus O'Reilly was fired. Emily Carter finally spoke. Emily Carter. At Real Emily Carter. Truth doesn't need permission, it doesn't apologize, it doesn't wait for approval, it just is. Boom. That was all she posted. No direct mention of Marcus, no name calling, just truth. And the internet exploded. Truth Wins began trending within 10 minutes. Half the country saw it as a statement of victory. The other half? A declaration of war. Music shifts. Energy surging. Intensity building. The backlash. And the unexpected support. Within hours, the political machine kicked into high gear. Mainstream media spun it as a moment of triumph. Emily Carter stands for truth in journalism. Conservative networks saw it differently. This wasn't a debate, it was a media hit job. But the real shock came from inside Marcus's old network. Several of his former colleagues went silent. Some even started unfollowing him on social media. And then came the leaks. A confidential memo from the network's leadership was exposed. Marcus O'Reilly was already becoming a liability. The incident with Emily Carter only expedited an inevitable decision. Wait, what? Was this always the plan? Had Marcus O'Reilly just been a pawn in a bigger game? Mystery deepens, tension rising. Marcus O'Reilly strikes back. That night, as the internet debated his downfall, Marcus O'Reilly did something no one expected. He went live. Marcus O'Reilly, the truth they don't want you to hear. 700,000 views in the first hour. Over 3 million by sunrise. Marcus O'Reilly. I was sacrificed. Let's make one thing clear. I didn't lose a debate. I was set up. Marcus O'Reilly. Emily Carter didn't destroy me. My own network did. And just like that, he flipped the script. The narrative was no longer about Marcus saying the wrong thing. It was about how quickly the media turned on its own. It was about who really pulled the strings. Music tightens. Pulse pounding. Intensity at its peak. Emily responds and changes the game. Emily saw the live stream. She watched Marcus fight for his career, and for the first time she felt something unexpected. Not triumph, not vindication, but pity. Because Marcus O'Reilly was right about one thing. He was never the real enemy. The system was. So she made a final move, one that no one saw coming. Emily Carter, @RealEmilyCarter. They always choose who to silence next. Today it was Marcus. Boom. In that one tweet, Emily shattered the divide. Conservatives and liberals began asking the same question. Who decides what we get to hear, and who gets erased when they step out of line? And just like that, the debate was no longer Marcus versus Emily. It was the people versus the machine. Or a scapegoat for a much bigger game? And most importantly, if it happened to him, who's next? Your turn. Drop a comment below. Was this a justified takedown or cancel culture gone too far? Did Emily Carter expose a flaw in the system or just play into it? And who really controls the media? Smash that like button if you want more hard-hitting stories like this. Subscribe so you never miss the real story behind the headlines. Coming up next, what really happened behind the scenes? We have exclusive leaks that will change everything. Stay tuned. Marcus O'Reilly was finished. At least, that's what they wanted him to believe. His name was erased from the network. His show was scrubbed from the archives. His colleagues, gone, like he never even existed. The message was clear. He was never coming back. But Marcus O'Reilly? He wasn't the kind of man to disappear quietly, a man at rock bottom. For 3 weeks, Marcus O'Reilly vanished. No statements, no appearances, no social media rant. Late-night comedians ripped him apart. Marcus O'Reilly? Oh, he's probably somewhere screaming at a mirror. Political analysts dismissed him as outdated. He was always a relic of an old media order. His time is over. And for a moment, it almost seemed like they were right. Because Marcus wasn't just silenced, he was broken. Alone in his penthouse, the city skyline mocked him. The phone didn't ring. The emails stopped. The world moved on without him. A text from his lawyer. Might be time to lay low, maybe write a book. A text from his agent. Networks aren't taking the risk, best to step back. Step back? Lay low? That's what they wanted. And that's when something inside Marcus O'Reilly snapped. They didn't fire me because I was weak. They fired me because I was dangerous. And now? He was about to become even more dangerous than before. Music shift rising intensity like the start of a war. The underground comeback. Marcus O'Reilly didn't beg for redemption. He built it. Unfiltered, uncensored, unstoppable. One live stream, one microphone, no corporate oversight. They erased me from television, but they can't erase me from you. Marcus O'Reilly went live. Within the first hour, 500,000 views. 2.4 million by morning. I was silenced because I told the truth. Now, I'm going to tell you all of it. Take the fight to them. He exposed everything. Confidential emails leaked from his network. Secret memos showing how the media controlled narratives. proof that his firing was planned before his debate with Emily Carter. They wanted this to happen. This was never about one sentence. This was about power, and suddenly, Marcus O'Reilly wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for everyone who had ever been silenced. Relentless, powerful, unstoppable. And everything changes. Emily Carter saw the firestorm. She watched as Marcus O'Reilly's audience exploded overnight, and she knew this wasn't over. Text from a colleague: "You should respond. He's making you the villain." Text from a senator: "Don't let him rewrite the story, control the narrative." But Emily? She didn't react right away. Because deep down, something about Marcus's comeback didn't sit right. Had she been part of the problem? So, instead of attacking Marcus, she did the unthinkable. She reached out. "I don't agree with everything Marcus is saying, but I do agree with one thing: someone else is pulling the strings." And just like that, the conversation flipped. Marcus and Emily were no longer enemies. They were two people who saw the same machine and were ready to burn it down. Music deepens, heavy, intense, a storm on the horizon. The network strikes back. Marcus O'Reilly's resurgence was a nightmare for his former employers. Because they couldn't stop him. He was independent. He had millions of followers. And now, even Emily Carter was questioning the system. "We need to get ahead of this." The executives held crisis meetings. Newspaper headlines appeared. Marcus O'Reilly spreads conspiracies in desperate attempt to stay relevant. Fired hosts meltdown, why no one should take him seriously. Emily Carter's dangerous flirtation with the alt-media fringe. They tried to destroy them both. But it didn't work. Because the people weren't listening to the networks anymore. They were listening to Marcus, to Emily, to the truth. Music surges. Powerful, defiant, unstoppable. The final move. And the unthinkable alliance. Marcus O'Reilly and Emily Carter were supposed to be enemies. Now, they were the most dangerous alliance in media. Emily Carter: "If you control information, you control the people. It's time to take that power back." Marcus O'Reilly: "No more corporate media, no more puppets, just truth." And then, they launched something that would shake the entire industry. A new platform, fully independent, beyond corporate control. "We're done playing by their rules. Welcome to the future of news." And the internet went insane. Was this the future of journalism? Was Marcus O'Reilly really back, or was this just the beginning of an even bigger war? Music fades, leaving only the question hanging in the air. Your turn. Drop a comment below. Did Marcus deserve a second chance? Is independent media the future, or just another echo chamber? And who really controls the truth? Smash that like button if you're tired of the mainstream media's games. Subscribe for the next chapter in this fight for the truth. Because this story, it's far from over. Marcus O'Reilly's fight wasn't just about getting his job back. It wasn't just about one heated debate, one moment of lost control, or even a battle between mainstream media and independent voices. It was about something much bigger. It was about truth. It was about power. It was about who gets to decide what you hear, what you see, and what you believe. The battle for information is a battle for control. Look around. What's on your newsfeed? What headlines get pushed to the top? Who decides what's important and what's irrelevant? The truth is, information is power, and whoever controls that power controls you. Marcus O'Reilly was erased because he refused to play by the rules. Emily Carter was targeted because she questioned the system. The media turned against them because they dared to break the script. And if this can happen to them, it can happen to anyone. Cancel culture isn't about justice, it's about silence. We've seen it over and over again. One mistake, one misstep, one moment taken out of context, and just like that, a career is gone, a reputation is destroyed, a person is erased. Sure, there are times when people deserve to be held accountable, but let's be honest. This isn't about accountability anymore. It's about control. It's about fear. Say the wrong thing? You're out. Disagree with the mainstream? You're candled. Question the narrative? You're a problem. And that's why Marcus's fight mattered. Because whether you agreed with him or not, he refused to be silenced. We decide who has a voice, not the media. There was a time when the media controlled everything. They told you what to think, they told you what to believe, and you had no say in the matter. But that time is over. Marcus O'Reilly didn't get his second chance because the media allowed it. He got it because the people demanded it. Millions tuned into his live streams. Millions shared his message. Millions rejected the idea that one network could decide his fate. And that's the real lesson. We have the power now. We decide who gets a voice. We decide who gets heard. And we decide what the truth really is. This is just the beginning. This story, it's not just about Marcus O'Reilly. It's about you. It's about the conversations we're afraid to have. It's about the voices they try to silence. It's about the power we have when we refuse to back down. If we don't fight for truth, no one will. If we don't challenge the narrative, it will define us. If we don't protect free speech, we'll lose it. So the question isn't will Marcus O'Reilly be back? The question is, who's next? Powerful, hopeful, a call to action. Your turn. Drop a comment below. Was Marcus O'Reilly a victim of cancel culture, or was this justice? Should there be limits on what people can say, or is free speech absolute? And most importantly, who really controls the truth? Smash that like button if you believe in the power of independent voices. Subscribe so you never miss a story that challenges the mainstream, because this fight, it's far from over.